What is up, YouTube? Skiz1 here. Today I have a review for you. It is of Brew Ink. So this is a little bit of a different review than I usually do. I picked this up at bombingscience.com at the same time as I bought these style file markers, which I did in the same unboxing. If you want to see the review I did on these, I'll link you to it on screen in one of the card thingies. But today we're going to be looking at the ink here. Basically what I'm going to do, I'll tell you a little bit about the product, then we'll do a little bit of testing of sort of how the ink reacts, things like that. Do a little bit of a surface test as well. But for anyone familiar with bombingscience.com, you know that generally they stock graffiti supplies, graffiti-related supplies. So this was a little bit of an outlier for them to stock. Basically, this is an ink that comes with a dauber. A lot of the things you might see at bombingscience.com are in terms of markers or things like Mops that have mohair nibs. That one's really ripped up right now. But things like that, or even solid paint sticks. So for them to stock something like this, that's a little bit different. This has a lot of uses in calligraphy. Specifically, it says even on the side of the package, it's good for writing, for calligraphy, for sumi and manga. It does also say that this is a highly pigmented ink. Although it is highly pigmented, it does claim that the ink will wash away with water. Only if wet. If it's dry, it says any thinners or solvents should take the ink off. So this really isn't a super permanent option if you're looking for anything like that. It does also say the ink is flammable, and you can, if you smell it, it is a very potent smell. You can tell it's got some fairly heavy chemicals in it. The dauber here, the dauber is almost just a ball, and it is sort of a harder dauber. See, like right there, I just expected that to make a nice clean line, but you do have to put a little bit of effort into this, and I have tried this out already, so I'm a little bit familiar with this. Something else about the dauber I notice is that, being that it's harder and the ink is a little bit thicker, it's hard to get the sort of nicer clean lines. If you're looking for something in like a streaky style, a lot of calligraphy uses that, a lot of symbols, things like that. If you're looking for something in that style, this is a very good dauber for that. The bottle, I should say, does also say that you can use this with any kind of dip pens, calligraphy pens. I would probably think this ink itself would be a little better used with a tool like that, only because the ink seems to be a little bit thicker. It doesn't really run too much. I actually do want to test this out on a vertical surface, purely because I want to see how the ink is laid down with this dauber. That's also partly because the dauber is a little harder, it doesn't really hold on to ink so well. In terms of the actual product, it comes in this nice glass jar. So the glass jar is sort of nice, makes you feel like you have something a little bit special, something a little bit worth something. But in terms of practicality, it makes it hard if you want to bring it anywhere, anything like that. It is breakable, and if you did break this somewhere in your house, per se, that would be a very big problem, obviously. So although it is sort of nice in terms of it might make you feel like you have something that's a little bit more quality oriented. In practicality, the glass bottle is not something I like. Might be something other people like, I'm not sure. As far as I know, the Brew Ink is just a black ink. That is all that I've seen being sold. So right now we're gonna take this and do a little bit of a vertical test. Alright, so I'm outside here, actually in my garage right now. One of the reasons I want to test specifically on this is like a cardboard which has been painted lots and lots, so it's a very smooth surface. But they did say this is highly opaque, and if you've seen any of my reviews before, if a product claims it's highly opaque, I'm going to test that, and it better be highly opaque. Something else I'm going to try and test here is I'm going to try and saturate the dauber, not oversaturate it, not undersaturate it, and just make a nice clean line. And I want to see how easy it is to make a clean, continuous line with the dauber that's provided, and that'll also tell us a lot about the ink consistency. Let's get started. So I'm bringing you a little closer here. I know the lighting's not very good, but as you can see, the first line I did here, very consistent. Second line, same thing. I had to press a little harder here because I didn't reapply any ink to the dauber. The drip here, it's a little bit my fault, but one of the reasons I wanted to test on a vertical surface is specifically because you can tell when you've applied too much pressure, not enough, and so that was a little bit my fault there. A vertical drip goes right through it. I wanted to test specifically going through a line that was already drying, because sometimes when something's drying it'll get a little stickier and mess with another line going through it. Not the case with this, it went through very smoothly. Down here I also did a few just little flares like that. A lot of font work, will obviously use that. So you can't get that effect with this dauber. I would say it is a good dauber. It has a lot of the qualities of a sponge. It soaks up a lot of ink. You can get very long continuous lines with it. So you can work on even a fairly large scale if you're working on a very large canvas with this. The ink, it is drying, and I am noticing something as it is drying. And I'm going to try and give you guys a little bit of a closer look here. So, as this is drying, you can see it's producing a little bit of a break in the lines. So as it's drying, it's very noticeable over here. It's starting to break from the surface a little bit, produce little cells of non-ink. With any laminated surface, this is going to happen. With any painted surface, most likely as well. So one of the downsides of this ink is it's not going to adhere to every surface per se. It's probably going to be best used for papers, things where the ink can saturate into the paper. So you do want to be careful when you're using it on surfaces like painted surfaces or laminated surfaces, as I said. Overall, I am impressed with the product. Although this is happening, I would like to see this not happen, to be honest. So this might not be the most practical if you're using it for something other than 100% calligraphy or just 100% making something out of this product and using no other media. The ink itself, it does seem to be high quality, although it does do this. The dauber it comes with is very nice. So overall, I'm not super impressed with the product, but it's far from a disappointment. It is a good product. You can tell. I don't think I mentioned you can pick this up for about $10. Overall, I'd say it's probably a 7 out of 10 in my books. One of the reasons I want to review this is because not a lot of people I know have used this. So if anyone has experience with this, please leave a comment, tell us what your experience is with it, because I'd really like to know a little more about it. That's pretty much it for today's video. I do have more reviews coming, more speed arts, more live streaming. Leave a comment, tell me what you guys want to see on the channel as well. I'm always open to suggestions. Until my next video, rate, comment, subscribe. Peace.